I crossed every line on my last fling before the ring, thought he'd never find out. Until he quietly vanished before the wedding, and what happened next left everyone speechless. I never thought I'd be writing this, but I need to get it out before I lose my mind. Maybe some of you will call me what I deserve to be called. Maybe some will understand. Either way, this is what happened when I destroyed everything perfect in my life for something stupid. My name's Julia, I'm 32, and until 2 months ago, I had everything figured out. I ran, well, it's complicated now, a luxury handbag atelier in Boston's Back Bay called Meridian & Company, not the kind of place you stumble into. My clients come by appointment only, minimum purchase 15 grand. I'm talking about women who lunch at Les Paliers and have houses on both sides of the Cape. The kind who appreciate that each bag takes 3 months because I personally source the leather from a specific tannery in Florence. I was engaged to Jason. God, even typing his name feels different now. 34, private equity associate at one of those firms where they don't advertise because if you need to ask, you can't afford them. We'd been together 3 years. He was everything I thought I needed, stable where I was chaotic, methodical where I was impulsive. When other guys would lose their S-word about me working until 2 a.m. or forgetting dinner plans, Jason would just show up at my workshop with Thai food and help me organize leather samples. Our wedding was set for October at my family's Nantucket estate. 200 guests, $250,000 budget, yes, I know how that sounds now. Jason handled most of the planning because September was my busy season. He had spreadsheets for everything, color-coded and cross-referenced. I should have been grateful. I should have been a lot of things. But 3 weeks before the wedding, I met Dean at a gallery opening in the South End. Russian art dealer, specialized in contemporary pieces. Tall, accent thick enough to cut, and he looked at me like Jason had stopped doing 2 years ago, like I was dangerous and worth the risk. I told myself it was just drinks. Then I told myself it was just dancing. Then I told myself it was just one night, a last fling before becoming Mrs. Boring private equity wife. Except it wasn't one night. It was 3 different nights over 2 weeks. Increasingly stupid. Increasingly reckless. The last time, I didn't even bother with a real alibi. Just told Jason I had supplier meetings and wouldn't be home until late. He never questioned it. Never checked. Just kissed me goodbye and said he'd handle the final catering tasting alone. Said he knew how stressed I was with the Brahmin order. Mrs. Lowell wanted her bag before leaving for Palm Beach, and that commission would cover our honeymoon upgrade to the Maldives. That last night with Dean was a Tuesday. We met at his Beacon Hill townhouse while his wife was at their place in New York. I remember thinking how easy it all was, how I was pulling off something delicious and secret. I felt powerful. In control. Like I was taking something for myself before I gave my life to someone else. I got home at 3 a.m., shoes in hand, already crafting the story about a leather emergency. The house was dark, which wasn't unusual. Jason always slept like the dead, earplugs and eye mask, full sensory deprivation. I crept up to our bedroom, already imagining sliding into bed next to him, playing the perfect fiancé in the morning. Our bedroom door was open. The bed was made with military corners, the way Jason always insisted. His nightstand was cleared. I flicked on the lights, confused. Called his name. Nothing. I walked to his closet. Empty. Not messy empty like he'd grabbed things in a hurry. Systematic empty. Hangers evenly spaced. His watch collection gone from the drawer. The Tom Ford cologne I'd bought him for Christmas. All of it. But on the kitchen counter, placed dead center on the marble island we'd picked out together, was my engagement ring. The 3-carat cushion cut he'd spent months selecting. No note. No explanation. Just the ring, catching the light from the pendant lamps, throwing tiny rainbows on the walls. I stood there in my bare feet, Dean's cologne still on my skin, staring at that ring. My phone had no missed calls. No texts. No dramatic confrontation. No tears. Just silence and space where a man used to be. The first thing I did was call him. Straight to voicemail, but not his usual message. Just the automated "the number you have dialed is no longer in service." I tried again. Same thing. His work phone went to the main reception. His email bounced back an auto reply, "I am currently handling a personal matter and will have limited availability. For urgent business inquiries, please contact Gerardo Hoffman." Gerardo was his boss. The managing director who'd recruited him from Wharton. I sat on our Italian leather couch, his choice, my credit card, and tried to process what was happening. Jason didn't do dramatic exits. The man color-coded his sock drawer. He had contingency plans for contingency plans. This wasn't him having cold feet. This was something else. By morning, I'd crafted my story. Stress from work. Family pressure. Typical male panic about commitment. I called my 3 closest friends, Ren, Blair, and Sadie, and fed them variations of the same line. Jason needs some space to process everything. You know how analytical he is. They bought it because I sold it well. I've always been good at selling things. My mother arrived at noon in her black town car, wearing Chanel and disappointment. Frances Whitmore Carlyle doesn't do emotional scenes, but I could see her calculating the social damage. 200 guests, Julia. The governor's wife RSVP'd. He'll be back, I said, pouring myself wine at 12:30 p.m. He just needs time to process. Process what, exactly? The magnitude of it all. You know men. She studied me with those sharp blue eyes that had spotted BS in 3 generations of Boston society. But she wanted to believe the lie as much as I did. A runaway groom was better than whatever truth might be underneath. The venue called that afternoon. Very sorry, Miss Carlyle, but Mr. Maida has cancelled the entire event. Yes, he forfeited the deposits. Yes, all $60,000. No, he didn't give a reason. I threw myself into work. Posted on Instagram about exciting new designs coming soon, and sometimes the universe redirects us. Booked meetings with 2 new clients. Lunched at Mistral with Antonia, my business partner, pretending everything was exactly as planned. I even went to Soul Cycle, sweating out my confusion next to women who had no idea my life was imploding in slow motion. But the nights were different. I'd drive past his office building, looking for his Audi in the garage. I checked his LinkedIn obsessively, no updates, but he was viewing profiles. He was out there, somewhere, choosing to be anywhere but with me. 2 weeks passed. I almost convinced myself I'd won. He'd left quietly, without making a scene. No public humiliation. No confrontation about Dean. Maybe he didn't even know. Maybe this was about something else entirely. I could control this narrative. Then the email arrived at 11 p.m. on a Thursday. Subject line, Notice of Account Restructuring, Meridian and Company. I almost deleted it as spam. But the sender was our business bank, and the account number was correct. I opened it with the kind of dread you feel when you already know something's wrong but your brain hasn't caught up yet. Dear Ms. Carlyle, this notice confirms the recent changes to your business account structure as requested by authorized signatory. Authorized signatory. The word swam in front of me. I pulled up our account online. Everything looked normal at first glance. Same balance. Same pending transactions. But when I clicked on account details, there it was, Joint Signing Authority, Jason Maida. My stomach dropped through the floor. During the wedding planning chaos, when I was flying to Florence for leather suppliers and he was handling venue contracts, I'd signed papers. Lots of papers. He'd presented them so logically, just in case something happens while you're traveling and for emergency access if needed. I'd signed them between tastings. During fittings. While half drunk on champagne and fully drunk on being wanted. I'd given him access to everything because I trusted him and, more importantly, because I couldn't be bothered with the details. I searched through my email for every document I'd signed in the last 6 months. Power of attorney for financial decisions. Joint signatory on business accounts. Secondary authorization on the commercial lease. My phone buzzed. Another email. This one from our corporate credit card company. Account modification pending review. Then another. And another. Each one formal, procedural, and absolutely terrifying. I pulled up my laptop and started checking everything. Every account, every document, every single financial instrument I'd carelessly handed him access to was being systematically restructured. Not stolen, that would have been simpler, something I could fight. This was surgical. The business checking account showed a freeze pending signature verification. Our merchant services account, the one that processed customer credit cards, suddenly required dual authorization for any transaction over $5,000. The corporate Amex I'd been using for everything from leather supplies to lunch? Suspended pending review of authorized users. I called the bank at midnight. The poor customer service rep couldn't help. All changes were initiated by a valid account holder with proper documentation. Everything would need to be resolved in person, with original paperwork, during business hours. But I'm the primary account holder, I said, trying not to sound as desperate as I felt. Yes, ma'am, but Mr. Maida is listed as joint signatory with full authority. These changes are within his rights. Rights. He was using my own sloppiness against me. By morning, the real hits started landing. Our commercial lease, the one for my beautiful atelier space on Newberry Street, I got a notice of non-renewal. Turns out Jason had been the guarantor because my credit was maxed when we'd signed 3 years ago. The landlord was very sorry, but without Mr. Maida's continued guarantee, they'd need the space vacated by end of year. Then came the client calls. My biggest accounts, the ones worth half my annual revenue, all received formal notices that contracts were under review due to structural changes at Meridian & Company. Professional, vague, and absolutely devastating to confidence. Mrs. Lowell called personally, wondering if her Palm Beach bag would still be ready. Of course, I lied, even as my credit card got declined trying to order her specific leather from Florence. I drove to my lawyer's office without an appointment. Richard Castellano had handled my business formation, my parents' estate planning, everything. But his assistant looked uncomfortable when I walked in. Mr. Castellano is in a meeting. I'll wait. He's actually in meetings all day. But he asked me to give you this. She handed me an envelope. Inside, a formal letter stating that Jason had already provided full documentation of all financial authorizations, along with a timeline of every signature I'd provided. Richard couldn't represent me in any potential dispute due to conflict of interest. He'd drawn up the original papers. Conflict of interest? I said it too loud. People in the waiting room looked up. I'm sorry, Ms. Carlyle. Perhaps Brennan and Associates might be able to help. Brennan and Associates. Divorce lawyers. The kind who advertise on bus stops. I sat in my car in the parking garage, finally understanding the scope of it. This wasn't rage or revenge. This was architecture. He'd built this trap while I was sneaking around with Dean, thinking I was so clever. Antonia called while I was driving home. Wire vendors calling me about frozen payments. The Milanese supplier says our wire didn't go through. Technical glitch. I'm handling it. Julia, I've got 40 grand of my own money in this business. Don't BS me. I said I'm handling it. But I wasn't. Every move I tried to make required his signature now. Every attempt to restore single authority needed documentation I'd never kept, because who keeps receipts on trust? I tried calling his friends. Radio silence. His cousin in Providence, who'd promised to do Mendy for our wedding, sent me to voicemail. Even the guy who detailed his car, who I'd found for him, suddenly didn't speak English when I called. By the end of the week, I was paying for everything in cash, what little I had in my personal checking. My mother offered to help, but with strings, counseling, a full audit, and most humiliating, moving back home to Wellesley. Just temporarily, she said, until this sorts itself out. I refused. I still had my apartment. I still had my name on the door of my atelier. I still had some control. Then the invitation arrived. It came through my own assistant's email. Tasteful digital design, our company logo, addressing me as a valued guest. Meridian & Company cordially invites you to a celebration of new beginnings. The Taj Hotel, Ballroom Suite. October 15th, 7 p.m. October 15th. What would have been our wedding day? The invitation I definitely hadn't sent, for a party I definitely hadn't planned, at a venue I'd booked months ago for our reception after party. Using my own assistant. From my own company email system. That I was now locked out of. I showed up to the Taj in my best armor, a Roland Mouret dress that cost more than most people's rent, the Louboutins that made me 5 feet 10 inches, and enough confidence to fake my way through whatever this was. The ballroom was exactly as I'd specified months ago, warm lighting, white orchids, the good champagne. About 50 of Boston's elite were already mingling when I walked in. My assistant Madison rushed over, looking confused. Miss Carlyle, I thought you were already here. Mr. Maida said you were running late from a supplier meeting. My blood turned to ice. Jason's here? He's been here for an hour, greeting guests. I scanned the room and found him near the windows, talking to the Lowells. He looked incredible, the charcoal Tom Ford suit I'd bought him for his birthday, the watch I'd given him for our anniversary. He was laughing at something Mr. Lowell said, completely at ease. He saw me and raised his champagne glass in a small salute. I crossed the room on legs that wanted to run. What the hell is this? Julia. He kissed my cheek like we were old friends. So glad you could make it to your own party. My party? Well, Meridian & Company's party. Though I suppose the distinction is getting complicated. He turned to Mrs. Lowell. Julia was just telling me about the delays with your bag. Supply chain issues are brutal right now. Mrs. Lowell looked between us, sensing blood in the water but too well bred to comment. Jason clinked his glass. The room quieted. My stomach dropped. Thank you all for coming tonight, he began, his voice carrying perfectly. As many of you know, Meridian and Company is going through some transitions. In the interest of transparency, something I've always valued, I wanted to address our stakeholders directly. Stakeholders. Our clients were stakeholders now. He had a presentation. Of course he did. The screens I'd ordered for our wedding slideshow lit up with Meridian's logo. First, I want to announce that Julia's incredible talent will continue to be the creative heart of this company. However, the business structure is evolving to ensure sustainable growth. The slides clicked through. Financial projections. New organizational charts with my name notably absent from any leadership position. Phrases like capital restructuring and equity dilution through necessary investment floated past. Due to recent capital calls that went unaddressed, he said, looking directly at me, we've had to make some difficult decisions. But I'm pleased to announce that several new investors have stepped forward. The door opened. Dean walked in with a woman on his arm, tall, blonde, devastating. His wife. Anya. Mr. and Mrs. Volkov have been particularly supportive, Jason continued. They've not only invested but have offered to become anchor clients for our new European collection. Dean wouldn't meet my eyes. Anya was staring at me with a smile that could freeze vodka. Additionally, Jason said, we've made substantial donations to several foundations supporting women entrepreneurs. Sometimes giving back helps clarify an organization's values. The slides showed donations made from company accounts, technically legal since he had signatory power. $50,000 to the Women's Business Alliance. $30,000 to a foundation for female artisans. All in Meridian's name. All reducing our cash reserves to almost nothing. Antonia was at the bar, drinking heavily. She caught my eye and mouthed, "We're F-word." "Now," Jason said, walking toward me with an envelope, "I have something for our founder." The room was watching. Phones were discreetly recording. This was Boston, scandal was currency, and everyone wanted to be rich tonight. He handed me the envelope with the same hands that used to braid my hair when I couldn't sleep. "For you." I opened it because what else could I do? Inside was a single brass key and an address in Alston. Not Back Bay. Not Beacon Hill. Alston, where grad students lived in triple deckers. "What is this?" "A gift," he said, loud enough for everyone to hear. 12 months paid. Because despite everything, I don't want you to be without a home. The implication hung in the air. I was losing my apartment too. Anya Volkov laughed, light and tinkling. "How generous you are, Jason. Some men would not be so kind after such disappointments." The room was spinning. 50 of Boston's most influential people were watching me get publicly dismantled by the man I'd thought was too boring to notice I'd been sleeping around. I lasted another 10 minutes at that party, watching my life get carved up and served as appetizers to Boston's gossip circuit. Then I walked out, head high, knowing that by morning everyone would know. The text started before I reached my car. "Ren, OMG, are you okay? Blair, call me immediately. Even my mother, come home. Now." I ignored them all and drove straight to Jason's office building. Security knew me, waved me through. His assistant wasn't at her desk at 9 p.m. His office door was open. He was sitting behind his desk, reviewing documents, like this was any other Tuesday. "That was quite a show," I said. He looked up, unsurprised. "You always did like an audience." "You humiliated me." "No. You humiliated yourself. I just provided the venue." He set down his pen, leaned back. "Sit down, Julia." I stayed standing. "How long have you known about Dean?" He pulled out his phone, showed me a screenshot. "My location history. Since the first night. You forgot you shared your location with me 2 years ago. So you can always find me if I'm working late. Remember? 3 dots moving from our apartment to Beacon Hill. Staying for 3 hours. Moving back at 2:47 a.m. You knew and you didn't say anything? I was curious how far you'd go. How many times you'd lie to my face." He pulled up more screenshots. Text messages I'd sent to Sadie, bragging about the Russian situation. How I'd called it one last taste of freedom. "You went through my phone?" "No. Sadie sent them to me." He smiled at my shock. "The night after your first time with Dean. She thought I should know who I was marrying." "Sadie. My best friend since college. Maid of honor. She was worried about me," he continued. "Imagine that. Your best friend more concerned about my well-being than you ever were. If you knew, why didn't you just leave? Why all this elaborate? Because leaving would have been your victory. Poor Julia, abandoned by her cold fiancé. You'd have spun it into gold within a week. He stood, walked around the desk. But this? Making you watch while I dismantled everything using the tools you gave me? That's consequence. The business was mine. I built it. With my connections. My credit guarantee. My weekend work when you were too hungover to handle orders. He was close enough now that I could smell his cologne. The one I'd picked. Every signature you gave me, you gave carelessly. While I was tasting wedding cake, you were signing papers between sleeping another man. It didn't mean anything. Exactly. None of it meant anything to you. Not the business, not the wedding, not me. His voice never rose. Somehow that was worse. Do you know what the saddest part is? If you'd come to me and said you needed something else, something more, I'd have called off the wedding myself. Cleanly. Quietly. I didn't want to hurt you. He actually laughed. No, you wanted to have everything. Me as the stable provider, him as the excitement, your business as the playground. You wanted to win every game. So you destroyed my life. I revealed your life. There's a difference. He went back to his desk, pulled out a folder. Antonia's buyout offer. 30% of actual value. Take it or face litigation for mismanagement. That's theft. That's business. You'd know that if you'd ever actually run one instead of playing dress-up CEO. I grabbed the folder, threw it back at him. Papers scattered. I'll sue. I'll fight this. With what money? What lawyer? What reputation? He gathered the papers calmly. The studio in Alston is yours for a year. After that, you're on your own. You're enjoying this. No. I'm mourning. This is what my grief looks like, precise, thorough, and final. I turned to leave, then stopped. Was any of it real? Did you ever actually love me? I loved you completely. That's why this had to be complete too. I walked out thinking that was the end. That the worst was over. That I could rebuild from here, somehow. 6 months later, I was working as a senior designer for someone else, making a quarter of what I used to, when I saw the announcement in the Globe Society pages. Jason Mehta, engaged to Parai Sharma, biotech CEO. The engagement photo showed them at some charity gala. Parai Sharma was everything I'd pretended to be, MIT PhD, built her biotech company from nothing, made Forbes 30 under 30 without daddy's money or a connected boyfriend. She looked at Jason the way I never had, like she actually saw him. I was sitting in my studio apartment in Alston, eating takeout from the place downstairs, working on designs for my boss who'd hired me mostly for my contact list. The same list that had evaporated after that October night. Funny how that works. The apartment wasn't terrible. 1 bedroom, decent light, functional kitchen. Jason hadn't been cruel, he'd been precise. Just enough to keep me from drowning, not enough to let me forget how far I'd fallen. I ran into Dean 3 weeks later at a cafe in Cambridge. He looked rougher, the kind of rough that comes from expensive lawyers and frozen assets. Anya had taken him to the cleaners. Julia. He sat down without invitation. I heard about your situation. My situation. I kept sketching. That's a delicate way to put it. We could get drinks. Discuss our mutual disappointments. I looked at him then, really looked. The same eyes that had made me stupid. The same hands that had touched me while his wife trusted him to be somewhere else. He was exactly what I'd been, a user looking for the next score. No. We were good together. We were terrible people together. There's a difference. He left. I went back to my sketches. They were simpler now, clean lines, honest materials, nothing pretending to be what it wasn't. A week later, a courier delivered a package. Legal documents from Jason's lawyer, final dissolution of any remaining business connections. Cut clean, no loose ends. But there was a personal envelope too, his handwriting on cream paper. Inside was my grandmother's engagement ring, not the one he'd given me, but the one from my family, the 1920s Art Deco piece I'd asked him to keep safe because I was always losing jewelry. His note was brief. This belongs to your family, not our history. J. I held that ring, remembering my grandmother who'd built her own dress shop in the 40s when women weren't supposed to run businesses. She'd have been disgusted by what I'd become, not the affair, but the carelessness. The assumption that I could have everything without earning any of it. I called my mother. First time in 2 months. I want to apologize, I said. Not the BS apologies I've been doing. A real one. Come to dinner Sunday. I'm not asking for money. I know. That's why you're invited. I started rebuilding. Not the big gestures I was known for, but small things. Showing up on time. Delivering what I promised. Paying attention to details instead of assuming someone else would handle them. My boss noticed. Gave me a small raise, then a bigger project. 3 months later, I saw them at Harvest. Jason and Perai, having dinner with what looked like investors. She was explaining something, hands moving animatedly. He was watching her with this expression I recognized but had never seen directed at me, pride mixed with genuine fascination. Our eyes met across the restaurant. I could have hidden, pretended not to see them. The old Julia would have. Instead, I nodded. A small acknowledgement. He nodded back, then returned to his conversation. I walked past their table on my way out. Perai looked up, curious but not threatened. She knew who I was, everyone in Boston knew who I was. But she also knew who she was, and that made all the difference. Congratulations on your engagement, I said, meaning it. Thank you. Her voice was warm, confident. I heard you're doing beautiful work at Atelier Mart. Learning too. Jason didn't say anything, but he didn't need to. We'd said everything that mattered. I walked home to Alston, to my small apartment with its decent light and functional kitchen. My sketches were spread across the table, designs I'd actually create myself, with my own hands, no shortcuts or signatures from someone else. For the first time in my life, everything I had was something I'd earned. The perfect last fling had cost me everything I'd thought I wanted. Turns out, that was exactly what I'd needed. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you really like our videos, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Have a great day.